Okay, so this is the Nintendo that I refurbished the other day, electronically at least. Um, Not refurbished yet in terms of physically, because we do still need to reassemble this, and that's what we're doing here. So you can see I've got the Nintendo here. Pretty clean. It still needs a little bit of a clean along one of these edges. This one. Yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to do, so let's do it. So, this is a controller port cover shield. Just pops on like that. You flip it over and then screw it in. So, there we go. You just pop these fascia screws back in. Very easy thing to do, reassembling a NES. There we go, that's one. I do quite enjoy doing these. That's two. So, while I've got it open, remove some of this dust actually. Remove some of this dust with a cloth. Like so. Just, might as well get rid of the dust while we're at it. Cool. Now, as we can see, we've got some cable routing going on, which is fine, This cable will pop in here, this one will pop in over this side, so it's fairly safe to leave them as is, like this. The next step will be to take this and to pop the bottom RF shield on. So we'll do that now. So this side of the board is actually the bottom, and it's quite easy to do. We just pop it on like this. You see these little metal things? Yeah, they just clip over like that, and then just align it with the screw holes. And that's it, really. That's all there is to it. And then pop it in the Nintendo. So you might notice as well, I've already popped a cartridge slot on. This is a new one. The old one, I had a quick go at refurbishing it, but it wasn't in good condition, to be honest. It wasn't really worth trying to bring back. I gave it a good cleaning with electrical contact cleaner and so on, and it was just, I didn't want to have any of it, so whatever. Anyway, so you just pop these cables back in, much like the process was for taking it apart. It's exactly the reverse of that. Again, just they can be a little fiddly with this metal shield right where I am working now. Sorry, my hands are a bit in the way, aren't they? There we go. And then just sort of finagle it in there. There we go. Try not to bend the metal. So I'm just holding it together, and then pop the blue switch cables in. There we go. This cable routing's a little bit messy, but it's okay. We'll just leave it like that. So these ports are in pretty solid. These cables aren't going to wear on anything by the look of it. I think we're good. Yeah, there we go. So next thing's next. We need to actually screw this cartridge slot down. I can't remember if this pops over the top of it. I think it does. Yeah, it does. So we need to put this back. Just raise the board out a little bit. Sort of loop it over the slot at the back, and just slide it in. There we go. Make sure all the holes align. and then reassemble it. So I've got these screws already prepared. It's just a case of putting them in. So these silver screws go in there and there. One in from the very edge. And then we have two in the corners. Again, you know, fairly standard screwdriver procedure. Screw until tight. Don't over tighten them though. Keep that in mind. You know, you don't want to end up making it so that they strip the threads bare and that they no longer hold. And the same process for the front two screws. Nice and tight. I don't want to overdo it. Same again. Boom. Great. Okay. So next up, the RF shield. Now it's just a case of position it and screw it in. Again, you know, this is all fairly simple stuff. So all I need now are the screws for that. I believe are these ones. Turns out these old Game Gear boxes are quite useful as little screw holders. Admittedly, I should probably be keeping the Game Gear games that came in them in there, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. That's one. Kind of a boring process. Soldering is definitely more fun. These are very, very simplistic machines. I really do like working with them. Again, they have design flaws, and I'm actually working to resolve one of those. In fact, I mentioned it in my other video, but I will do a real quick demonstration of that when I'm further with reassembling this with a broken board, just to demonstrate what I'm up to. Oh, come on, I don't want to chew the screw up. Oh, for God's sake. Gently does it. It's just as well I've got some spare screws for this. There we go. There we go. That screw head's been chewed up a bit there. That's not good. I think these screws don't all match, actually. I think they are all ever so slightly different from each other, which is kind of annoying. I just assumed all of the RF shielding screws were exactly the same. So again, when I disassembled this thing, this was one heck of a dusty boy. Now look at it, it's nice and clean. Now, I did note, actually, when I was refurbishing the PCB, this area right here where my hand is, this part of the exposed PCB, this is where all the corrosion is. And the reason for that, actually, is definitely a design flaw on part of Nintendo, now that I think about it. Because, in fact, I'll show this real quick. If we look at this, there are vent holes in the top, and that allows two things to happen. The idea is it's to vent some of the heat that comes off of this RF unit, because there is a 7805 of a heat shield on there. A heatsink, sorry, not a shield. And it can get quite warm when it's in operation. So they have these vents here, but they go the entire length along. And this area here, there are no components that actually generate heat on the Nintendo, this part right here. Right there, all there is on the other side are connectors, and connectors don't generate heat, generally speaking. I mean, they can do if they're shorted, but that's different. You know, that's a completely different story. But my point is, because this bare PCB lies exposed underneath the vent holes on the Nintendo chassis, moisture can ingress, and it can cause corrosion on the PCB, which is precisely what we can see on this one. And a lot of people, they'll store these machines in an attic, in a cellar, you know, wherever they can really get them out of the way. And corrosion is something that can really take hold, even though you might not think it. Right, I shall be back in just a moment. I need to get a spare screw. Okay, screw acquired. This one's destined for the trash. Oh, that would have been bad. That would have been cross-threaded then. Pay enough attention to it. Right, let's put this in the trash. There we go. Right, excellent. Okay. So next up, I have two screws on their own, which I know I separated and belong to this RF housing. Power RF unit housing. Technically, the whole thing's an RF shield, but yeah. You have to be careful with these screws. They don't always take as nicely as you'd think to these holes. Sometimes they have a little bit of resistance, and it's ever so easy to either strip the head of the screw bare or to strip the holes. So just bear that in mind when assembling these. See, if I take that any further, that'll strip. If I turn it counterclockwise, there's a little click, and then I'm going to try screwing it in now. There we go, that's that one in nicely, without stripping it bare. Now for the next one. Goes down by this heat sink. And there we go. So next step really is to just clean up this white gunk along here. I'm pretty sure this is actually plastic polish from when I gave it a polish a while ago. Do need to be careful with where you use isopropyl on this. I have actually done damage to a NES with isopropyl. And what it did was it took the Nintendo logo right off the cartridge door. So that particular unit, when I get around to selling it, I'm going to reduce the price, minus the price of a cartridge door. So whoever buys it can use what I'd normally charge to buy another door. I mean, I guess I could do it myself, but hey, so some people might not be that bothered and they get themselves a slight bargain otherwise, right? So next up, this side, because this has the same issue. There we go, nice and clean. Let's check that side. Yep, looking good, looking good. Okay. So last steps. Assembling the top shell, which, you know, there's not really much to it. It's just a case of pop the top on, get it nice and sturdy, flip it over, and screw it in. You know, what more to it is there than that, right, guys? Got a ways to go on this. Yeah, I don't want to overdo it. It's not the most interesting thing in the world, somebody just screwing something together, but I have tested the board on my TV, and it now works. It was playing Super Mario and Duck Hunt just fine earlier. So the refurbishment and repair did work, did the job. I'm very, very happy, and this one will be on sale very soon. Hopefully it finds a nice new home. Hopefully the new owners take good care of it. Hi. Focus, there we go. Alright, and then there is this corner. Cool, so we got 1, 2, just this one right here that's missing. Boom. We just double check every corner. Yep. Good. That's good. That's good. Good. That's good. Right, okay, all the corners are fine. So next up, I just need to put the bottom clip on. This clip. I have one of those somewhere. There we go. And what I will do, I will briefly polish the machine. Not with plastic polish, just with regular old furniture polish. Something not very harsh. It's not going to damage the plastic, scratch it in any way. Just to give it a nice shine. As we can see, that's coming up quite nicely, actually. Oh, looks much better. The other nice thing about using furniture polish is it acts as a dust repellent, and my flat, my apartment, it is a dust magnet. It is a monster for dust. It truly is. There we go. So, nice polish up. Shame about the crack. There are ways to repair that, though. You could use ABS slurry, for example, if you got a third-party Nintendo controller. You melt it in acetone or nail polish remover. 100% acetone is the way to go. And then you just slowly rebuild the edge that's missing. Almost 3D printing it by hand, really. There is a bit of a mark there. I don't like that. Oh, you can't see it. Just an ever so slight mark here. Don't know if it can be seen on the camera, but it's a easy thing to remove. Just like that. And this NES is actually in pretty good condition now, I'd say. I'd say this one is essentially good to go. There is a little bit of muck around these on buttons, which I'll just quickly remove now. I could probably get it with the brush. Be careful if you're brushing these with a brush that's had isopropyl on, because if you get it on the lettering, it will come right off. Because, you know, yeah, I've learned the hard way on that one. Now, these controller ports, probably should have done this when it was apart, but they're a bit mucky as well, so we'll just fill them with isopropyl like I just did there, and we'll get a brush in on them. Yep, that's one. That's two. Okay. And there we go. We now have a refurbished Nintendo. Now, this machine I had an accident with, which I will show. When I was cleaning it, I accidentally did goofed, and yeah, that's the result. Yeah, I overcleaned it. Just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on these doors will remove the Nintendo logo, which is suboptimal. But there we go. So that's it. We now have a nice, new, clean, refurbished Nintendo Entertainment System front loader. And I also used PTFE lubricant on the on a little spring mechanism on this just to stop it squeaking. A little bit of metal sound, but that's fine. So there we go. We have a nice, clean, refurbished Nintendo Entertainment System. And I'll be selling this with one control pad, RCA leads, and a power supply. There we go. Oh man, this plastic polish is all over me. And that's it for this video anyway.